On today's episode, last week we talked about the first Avenger. Today we might as well be talking about the original Avenger. We watched Iron Man, and you're listening to Geeked Out.
Lights down, screen up, here we go. Talking movies everybody knows. The good, the bad, the ones we quote. Welcome to the Geeked Out Podcast Show. Geeked Out, getting ready to roll. Breaking down the stories that we all know. Geeked Out, grab a seat and hang around. Movie lovers getting geeked out. Geeked out.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. My name is Kyle.
Juan here, aka Black Tony Stark, aka Ghostface Killer. If you know, you know. Matter of fact, there's a Wu-Tang Clan member. He's a rapper named Ghostface Killer.
Yeah,
He
I know him.
goes by Tony Stark. It's one of his alter egos is Tony Stark, and he actually had a cameo, or at least they planned on. I'm not sure if they filmed it, but he was supposed to make a little cameo in the movie that we're discussing now, Iron Man.
That I did not know.
No, yeah. Now you know.
That's kind of interesting actually. But today we are kicking off our second episode into our MCU Origins movies, and this week was my pick, and I chose to do Iron Man, the original. I mean, I figured we couldn't do origin movies of MCU characters without the original, the OG, because, I mean, let's face it, without this movie, we either wouldn't have an MCU or it would look very, very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
be different. There's a reason.
Yeah, I don't even know where, like, what it would look like, because even the other one that we talked about last week, the Captain America, that's the other kind of cornerstone that they've built this whole MCU on, is between Iron Man and Captain America. And Captain America was the fourth origin movie.
And the Incredible Hulk, too.
Well, but we had already had the Incredible Hulk. We had already had Thor. I can't see them basing the whole MCU around Thor. I can't see them doing it around the Hulk. And for the simple reason that, as great of a character as Bruce Banner is, once he becomes the Hulk, he's just a rage monster. There's no real... Like, it's not like you can have him in a dialogue-heavy scene as the Hulk.
You can if you are a fan of the Hulk from the comics, because the Hulk from the comics actually does have dialogue. It is more of a cadence of, like, how... It's very simple in how he's
rudimentary, yeah.
But he still has intelligence. He still is his own person. And that's one of my biggest gripes with how the Hulk has been portrayed throughout, even back into the TV show era, is they always made Hulk out to be this mindless, rage-filled monster. He is a rage-filled monster, but he's not mindless. And I just hate that, because there's so much wasted potential with that duality of the two characters being in one body, and they never explore that, which sucks, because the Hulk deserves more.
To go off on a slight bit of a tangent into...
But I'm a Hulk fan. So.
Well, I'm not saying I hate the Hulk, but you're right. I will say that for the most part in pop culture, the way he is portrayed is that mindless monster, where it's kind of the same duality. If you look at Marvel's competitor in DC, the one character, Bane, if you look at the two ways that he's been described on film, you have Batman and Robin, where he is a mindless killing machine that just takes orders, and then you have him in The Dark Knight Rises, where he is much closer to the way he is in the comics, where he is extremely intelligent, and he actually is able to do things on his own, whereas the Hulk is portrayed the same way. Until they combined the two of them in Endgame, when they did Smart Hulk, he was exactly like he's always been, just a growling, raging monster who the only thing that would calm him down is and I hate the way the term that they use in the MCU is his lullaby, but that's the only way that they can connect to him when he is in that state.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just so much more to the character than what's been portrayed, and it's just sad because I'm a Hulk fan, like a big Hulk fan. He's one of my favorite characters, and when you don't see your character being represented to its full extent, it kind of rubs you the wrong way.
Well, it's like me with Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
But yeah, no. Even though I like it, I'm one of the only people that actually like really enjoys that movie. But I do recognize that it is it's not as good as it should be.
Yeah.
Even though they had all the ingredients for a great movie, and I'm glad that the MCU didn't start with its A-list characters, and it started with its lesser known characters because
They couldn't.
who knows if they would have been. No, I know they couldn't, but I'm glad that they at least took the chance because they sold the rights to all of the movie rights to all of their characters. They had to buy back the rights to Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. They only had a certain amount of money and they chose those characters to buy back.
Well, because the rest of them would have been too expensive
to make their own movies. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was the problem.
It's just
when this was all starting out, that's what everybody was saying was like, because I don't remember when this first movie came out if they had discussed that they wanted to do this massive universe. They said they wanted to end it up like into a team up film, which that's great, but when you look at it, I remember there was criticism being like, why are you doing Iron Man? Like, start with Spider-Man, X-Men, the big names. And it's like, well, Marvel didn't have those names. They had to sell the rights in the 90s because they almost went bankrupt. So if you really think about it, it was kind of a blessing in disguise what happened to them in the 90s when they did almost go bankrupt. As horrible as it would have been at the time for the company, had they kept those all of those characters under their control, I don't know if we ever would have gotten the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I don't know if we would have gotten the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen X-Men movies. And they might have started the MCU long before 2008 and used those characters, and it might not have hit as well. I really think that due to the circumstances, they somehow were able to turn this, and they found lightning in a bottle.
Who knows? The X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies are great, but they do have their flaws, and I don't know what Marvel would have done but at this time they didn't even have their own studio, so
no,
they were kind of just third partying it. So they didn't, even though they had control of the character. Who knows what the studios would have done with a lot of the direction, with a lot of the big hitters and whatnot. I'm glad that they chose Iron Man because Iron Man is a grounded character, even though he's technologically it's not as realistic, but it's still within a grounded world, and it's not so fantastical. We slowly get that with the introduction of other characters, but as a viewer, we enter the world with no superheroes or anything, so it's a clean slate, fresh start, and we're doing that with a character that had to make himself build his own superpower, basically, or his own become his own man, his own character in a grounded way that doesn't involve anything too superpowery or too superhero-y that it would have deterred a lot of the general audience when it and that's why I think Iron Man was the perfect character to bring in a superhero world by bringing in people that aren't necessarily fans of superhero movies and making them a fan of superheroes and superhero movies.
Yeah, I've always, and since this movie came out, because again, much like Captain America, I knew very little about Iron Man before this movie came out. But when you think about it, when we did the Daredevil movie, we talked about how Daredevil is kind of in a way like the dark, brooding, kind of like almost like Marvel's Batman in a way. I've also kind of viewed Iron Man as like a bright, colorful version of Batman in the MCU because they're the same. They're both billionaire geniuses who took their money and their knowledge and created this persona basically based around a suit and a persona that they then go on and use to fight crime. Because, I mean, you look at everybody else or not everybody, but almost everybody else, they've got their aliens or they're some kind of mutation or they've got some kind of superpower. Iron Man has no superpower. Iron Man's superpower is his checkbook and his brain.
Yeah, pretty much. His brain and his skill is his superpower. And, he's a lot like Batman. There's a lot of similarities there, just without a lot or too much of the trauma that Batman carries and keeps with him.
Yeah.
The traumatic event that happens to Tony Stark happens later in his life, and it is a direct reflection or at least impact of his own creation and how ignorant he was into thinking that it wouldn't be go into the wrong hands.
Yeah. So as we get
essentially, this movie in a nutshell is about legacy.
More or less, yeah. But as we get back to this, I was the one who suggested we do this movie, so I'll give you a little bit of my background before we get to you. As I said, I really knew very little about Iron Man going into this movie. However, at the time when it came out, I was all there for the superhero, all those types of big epic comic book type movies that had come out over the years, and this one was no exception. I was super excited to see it. I didn't know what it was going to be. I certainly didn't envision what it was going to become. But I do remember going to see this in theaters with my friends, and I remember the biggest thing is walking out. Obviously, this is the origin. This is the big the stepping stone, the starting point. I remember that everybody was talking about, the movie was good, but everybody was talking about that post-credit scene. It's only like 15 seconds long, but it did so much to set up what this was going to be that we'll get there when we get to it. But I remember everybody was so hyped coming out of this movie for basically not so much that because the movie was so good or that the movie was good or bad, but more so what we could expect in the next few months or years to come. Little did we know we're 18 years later and we're still doing this.
And I don't even think they realized how much that post-credit scene, like the reception from it, what was going to come of it.
Yeah.
And man, it had huge implications. And from that one post-credit scene, and the success of Iron Man, it gave birth to the MCU, which is the greatest theatrical franchise of all time.
Absolutely. And it's not close. So what about you? I'm assuming you saw this in theaters as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew of Iron Man. I'm a big Marvel guy. I knew him he had a run, an animated run in the 90s. He had his own animated show. I think it lasted maybe 1 or 2 seasons. It had a fire theme song.
I couldn't get into the show. That's kind of where I was.
It was okay. There were other animated shows that were a lot better, which took our attention in the 90s, but that one was okay. It was a good filler. So you got to like the X-Men and the Spider-Man and the Batman. But what I knew of Iron Man mostly, I think just before this came out, there was an animated feature-length Iron Man movie. I think it was called The Invincible Iron Man that mirrors a lot of his origins of this movie. It's just the villain is different, and but a lot of like how he becomes Iron Man, that whole um sequence with the cave and
Hmm.
building the suit with Jensen, that is pretty accurate to the animated movie. It's just everything that happens after is much different,
Okay. Well,
but still
before we get
good
into
enough to where you understand who Tony Stark is, what kind of character he is, and his origin.
I mean, they don't shy away from that in this movie, which I was kind of surprised about. I'll talk about that when we kind of get to it. But before we get into the movie, I'm going to give run down the details real quick. So this movie was originally released May 2nd of 2008, which for those keeping score at home was just a few months ahead of what I consider to be the greatest comic book movie of all time, in The Dark Knight. It had an estimated budget of $140 million, and it had a worldwide box office return of $585.7 million. It currently sits at a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. The critics on Rotten Tomatoes have given it a 94%, where the fans have given it 91%. It was directed by Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Written by Mark Fergus, Hank Ostby, Art Markham, and Matt Holloway, based on characters created by Stan Lee, Don Heck, Larry Lieber, and Jack Kirby. It stars Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges, Terrence Howard, Leslie Bibb, Sean Toob, Ferran Tahir, Clark Gregg, and the voice of Paul Bettany. The synopsis of the
And
movie.
Ralphie from the Christmas.
I have him in my notes. You better believe I have him in my notes. Peter Billingsley.
You better add him in the cast. And
After being
boy,
held captive in an Afghan cave, billionaire engineer Tony Stark creates a unique, weaponized suit of armor to fight evil. Now, I know that when IMDb puts these synopses on, they try to generalize it because they don't want to go too far. That is the most generalized synopsis of Iron Man that I think I've ever heard. Just, he just builds a suit of
Very
armor
quick rundown.
in a cave, and he's going to use it to fight evil. The end.
which guys? Cave,
But
hurt, cave, suit, villain,
done.
and that's it. That's all. All right.
I will
okay.
say-
Okay, cool.
One more thing I will say. The character of Iron Man first appeared in Tales of Suspense number 39 in 1962. The cover dated March of 1963. And it finally received its own title with Iron Man number 1 being published in 1968.
I'm pretty sure the motivation behind creating the character, Stan Lee wanted to create a character. He wanted to challenge the reader to like a character that was kind of unlikable, or not unlikable, but kind of like
Kind of a douche.
how Tony Stark is. Yes, Tony Stark, basically. A little bit more how he was just before the accident.
Yeah, because he is like, and I mean, Robert Downey Jr. plays this character so well. Later, when we get into our casting, our recasting category, I had such a hard time trying to come up with something for that because I
For what, what do you mean?
don't
Sorry?
for the recasting. I don't think that
Oh, I got one. I got a good one.
I finally was able to stumble upon one, but it took me a while because along with so many of the characters in the MCU, I feel like they were cast so perfectly that it's hard to envision anybody else being that character. And the hard part with...
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr., it's like, yes, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, but in the comics, he was a little bit less charming and a little bit more like
He was
analytical
brash,
and logical. The arrogance was still there, but not to the degree of a Robert Downey Jr. So they kind of took the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, and that officially became his personality in the comics. So if you're going to recast him, don't make him like Robert Downey Jr. You got to go back to how he is in the comics, or like the animated show where he's a little bit more uh stern, or just less of a Robert Downey Jr. like charm.
Yeah,
Which is
because
funny
he
because my
really.
recasting choice is exactly like Robert Downey Jr. So who knows?
Well,
But
he.
I just feel like it would be an easier pill to swallow for the people, for the audience when they recast, if you don't recast somebody trying to be Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, because without that charm,
Because
you
the
he does
comparisons are going to be
become.
there no matter what.
Yeah, he does become very dislikable if you don't have that charm. I mean, even in the very beginning, like when he's in the army vehicle, he the driver. It turns out she was a woman, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were even a woman. I just saw a soldier." If it was somebody with less charisma, or um, what was the word you would use to
No, you wouldn't
describe
be able to
him?
get away with those lines.
No, you'd be like, what an asshole
Uh,
thing to say." You know,
yeah, because it's like, yes, he's air like that. I love that opening. I think it's perfect. I think it's the perfect opening up into the title card, because you establish like who Tony Stark is. You know, he's charismatic, he's funny, he's arrogant, um, he's loved by people, and um, and then the convoy gets attacked, right? He's captured, and just that sets up the future conflict all before the title card. And I think no wasted time, no fluff. It was the perfect way to open this movie.
I will say one of the only things that I definitely wrote down is for me, it just dates when the movie was made, is when they're talking about Maxim cover models and MySpace. I was like, that's firmly embedded in '08. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the specific references, absolutely. But, you know, people being interested in his life and who he's hooking up with, that's still a very current thing. It's just how the just the delivery system of news is different. So the references are outdated.
yeah. And I will say that I forgot that it opened this way with the con. Like, I knew there was the convoy, but I forgot that it opened with the convoy, and then there was a quick flashback to show, because if you really want to know kind of the basis of Tony Stark, all you need is this flashback of him not showing up to get his award, and he's gambling in the casino instead, and he's always got Rhodes, or Rhodey as he calls him, to kind of like get his back. Like, well, yeah, I didn't worry about being there because I knew you would accept it for me. Like, it is what it is type thing. And
Yeah.
again, even right from there, he's approached by a journalist who, she's writing a piece on him, but immediately it seems like she already knows what angle she's going to take on the piece, and it's a very unflattering one towards him and his company.
And she's a
And
reporter.
he uses that, and immediately jump cut to the next scene, they're in bed together. So it shows what he really cares about and how charismatic he is, that even a reporter who seems to, quote unquote, despise who he is and what he stands for, he's still able to seduce her, get her into bed, and have her kind of doing what he kind of wants her to do.
Yeah, it was a great flashback because we get a glimpse of how Tony Stark used to be, and he still is that character to his core. Like, he's still, you know, very much that character, except the fact that, you know, what happens after with the accident and him facing his legacy. But I like that they gave us this flashback, this glimpse of the old Tony Stark, because we don't see him ever again.
Nope.
He
And
definitely embraces him being a hero,
and
and
the way that the way that goes down,
Yeah.
you might as well.
You see the character arc.
The way it does that, because like you say, it's one extreme at the beginning to after he gets back from the cave, it's to the other extreme. You might as well call Yinsen in the cave Jiminy Cricket, because he like becomes his conscience.
Oh yeah, he is the absolute MVP of this movie and the Marvel universe itself. Because if Jensen did not save Tony Stark,
There'd be no Iron Man.
got no Tony Stark, we don't have there'd be no Iron Man, there'd be no him sacrificing himself at the end of Endgame, saving the universe. So all that trickles down to what Jensen did in that cave. And it sucks because he is such an important, impactful character to Tony Stark. And rewatching this movie with a critic mind, man, and knowing the future, of the MCU, I just don't understand why they didn't give Jensen more respect, but especially giving us or letting us know how much of an impact that this man has on Tony Stark. It showed us in this movie, but it didn't have any lasting effects. I mean, he gets a cameo in the third Iron Man, sure, but that was only to connect the dots to what he said in the cave with Tony when he first met him. But I just wish there was more, because he did so much. I think it was Jensen that helped create Iron Man, because
absolutely,
when Tony made the suit, but the suit was a tool to get out of the cave. It was Jensen's words and his sacrifice that once Tony left that cave, he accepted the role of being a hero.
Yeah.
And Jensen doesn't get any recognition for it. Sucks.
It almost, when I was watching the movie, it almost surprised me knowing what we know now. Like I said, we're 18 years post this movie and 18 years into the MCU, and I was kind of shocked that there hasn't been some kind of invention or AI or something that Tony has named after Jensen. Even if nobody else
like a foundation, or
even if nobody else understands the reference, even if it's just for him.
Yeah, and it should have been spread. Those moments should have been spread out throughout the two sequels following this movie.
Well, even when Jensen actually, like, when he sacrifices himself and Tony finds him and he's like dying, and he says, "No, we got to get you out of here. We got to get you back to your family," which is what Jensen said. He's like, "This is the way I get to see my family." And he says to him, like, "This was always my plan." He's like, "What are you talking about? I got to get you to your family." And he says, "My family's dead. Like, this was my plan from the beginning."
And that follows.
He didn't expect to get out of that cave alive.
And it was great. It was great writing. Him saying that, and you realizing in that moment. We didn't get much time with Jensen, but we get an emotional attachment to him right away. We believe the chemistry between him and Robert Downey Jr. is great, and by the end of it, there's so much of an emotional attachment that you do feel something when he dies. I mean, you're not bawling, but you do feel some kind of way when he does die, because you do have the way that the movie was written. You have that emotional connection, and it has a really good payoff.
Now, I do
and very important. And I just want to say he says the single most important line, I think, in the MCU, besides "always be a good man," Captain America, is Jensen says, "Don't waste your life, Stark."
Yeah.
And I think that's more than a line. I think that's the mission statement of Tony Stark's entire MCU journey.
But it's funny because throughout Tony's journey through as Iron Man through the MCU, he's constantly telling people that I'm not a hero. So it's almost like he doesn't want. I guess maybe that's Jensen's legacy, because it's like Tony doesn't want to admit to everybody that he's a hero. it's almost like he keeps that private as if it's something just between him and his friend who died in that cave.
But I think I think he ultimately feels guilty for making weapons for so long, and him facing the reality that they were in
They're sold to
the
both
hands
sides.
of his enemies and just the wrong people for so long, that I think like that is a guilt I think that
Well,
will always be with him. So he
I think
can't
it's
fully accept the role of being a hero without that weight of guilt that he has with him.
I think it's not only that the enemies have the weapons, it's that it's not like they stole them. They were selling them. His company was selling them to
Yeah,
both
exactly.
sides.
When I say steal, I mean that. Yeah, yeah, but you don't know that. Uh, early on in the movie, you slowly
No.
start to realize. I think that is one of my biggest critiques of the movie, is that the movie sacrifices this mystery, or at least the turn, the heel turn in this movie. They sacrifice that moment for character development to show that this particular character, the villain of the movie, um,
Yeah,
his motivations. I think if you're gonna do that turn, it should have been way earlier in the movie.
I agree. Now, I did want to ask, so the group that ultimately kidnaps Tony and brings him to the cave, they're called the Ten Rings. Is that a Shang-Chi reference?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They do make reference to it, um,
In the
in
third
the
one, don't
third
they?
Iron Man and Shang. It's
Okay,
yeah,
I'm going to be
the third
completely
Iron Man
honest.
and Shang-Chi, and then there was a short, like a 15 minute short called All Hail the King that also talks about it.
Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. Not a big fan of the second Iron Man movie, personally. I did not
It
like,
has good moments,
and I
but
can't even remember
overall
what
it's a
his
mess. Yeah.
fucking character, Whiplash, except when Mickey Rourke is asking for his board.
Oh my God.
Um,
Yeah,
even
and that character was an amalgam of two characters. They took
I
two
know.
Iron Man characters, smashed them into one character. It's so stupid. Yeah, that's my biggest
And
critique of that
even
movie is the way they
I,
handled the villain.
I haven't revisited it in a long time, but I remember when I first saw Iron Man 3, I hated it.
As most people, but I think because it was the movie that came after the Avengers, they wanted some spectacle. And
But that's
Iron Man
not
3 is
why.
more of a character study. Sorry?
Well, the reason I hated it was, spoiler alert if anybody hasn't seen Iron Man 3. I hated it because
Oh, the turn with Mandarin.
Yes. The whole
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
with the
yeah.
Mandarin is he's
I see.
supposed to be
Yeah,
this
okay. Yeah.
massive villain, and then all of a sudden, the big reveal in that movie is, oh, I'm just an actor playing the Mandarin, and then it's never really rectified, and it's like, well, that's just a slap in the face. Like, I took that as a slap in the face to fans.
Absolutely.
So that's why I've always kind of
I
looked at that
mean,
movie in a negative light.
I think it's a slap in the face because the Mandarin is supposed to be the Joker to his Batman. It's his
Yeah.
own, like his biggest villain, his arch nemesis, and they treat him as a joke. So I can understand. If they, I feel like I did like the way that I mean, before we knew he was an actor, that angle where he's more of like the leader of a terrorist organization. But in the comics, he's a magical based character. Like he has the 10 rings. It's based off of him literally having these 10 rings of power, all having individual control over some type of element
Yeah.
or something of that nature. And I wish they would have done that because you could have introduced magic and it would have been, tech versus magic, and that would have been a way more interesting way to approach your sequel or even third movie. And I just wish they would have done that. Ultimately, I didn't mind the fact that they made him into a terrorist leader, but the fact that it was an actor the whole time is just like, all right, man, whatever.
Yeah,
It's just
that
again,
bugs me.
it's one of it, it's it's one of the MCU's biggest problems up until maybe Infinity War and Endgame is the lack of respect and development of the villains.
Yeah. Because even this movie, when we get to the villain, like you said, the reveal should have been done earlier, and there should have been more attention paid towards that. Whereas the majority of the attention paid in this movie is Tony developing the tech. So obviously he builds this rudimentary but completely badass suit in the cave. Also, he builds his arc reactor.
In the cave with a bunch of scrap.
I wrote that line. I love that delivery by Jeff Bridges.
I will randomly will say that line just to answer people's questions or something randomly. Just it's just for fun.
Tony Stark.
It doesn't make any sense. It's not
cave with a box of
Yeah,
scraps.
right. And I'd be like, huh? I just asked you for that box over there. But yeah, no, it's one of the many MCU lines that I randomly say.
And if you've seen the movie, everybody knows what it's in reference to. But yeah, this original suit, while it looks really cool, is completely rudimentary and just, I mean, this thing damn near falls apart.
Yeah, it resembles his first suit in the comics.
Yeah.
Why it looks like that? It looks like that suit, very much so.
Yeah, I did.
But they
know
had
that
to.
connection.
They had to make it. They had to make it look like it's gonna fall apart because he did it with a bunch of scraps. So I like the fact that it wasn't this invincible suit, and it was built only enough for a means to get the fuck out of there. And I'm glad that it. Yeah, man, it made for a thrilling, badass action scene.
Well, and it's to the point where he flies away, and it's so rickety that he crash lands, and the whole thing ends up into 100 different pieces, and then he's just stuck in the desert. Obviously, he gets lucky and he gets rescued, but when he gets back to the States,
they were looking for him thoroughly.
Oh, absolutely. But when he gets back to the States, the first thing he says is he wants an American cheeseburger at a press conference. And for an American cheeseburger, he goes with Burger King?
Yeah, because I think the actor, Robert Downey Jr., likes Burger King.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure that was like a behind the scenes.
I just thought it was kind of funny.
I read somewhere.
Of all the places you could get a cheeseburger, and you are Tony Stark, money is not, you could get a fucking like a Wagyu thick burger, and he gets Burger King.
It's coming back to me. I think it's connected to his past addictions. I think that is the place that he went to after he went to counseling, or he dealt with the just taking the first steps into quitting his addictions. I think that's what he did.
If that's the case, I can support it 100%.
So he wanted 100%. To. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm probably butchering the details, but essentially, that's why he chose Burger King, because it's connected to his personal life.
Okay. Now, I like when he does it, when he has this press conference and he sits on the floor and he tells everybody, like, it reminds me of like story time in kindergarten. Because he's like, oh, yeah, everybody
absolutely.
Just sit down, like everybody just relax. And it also feels like he's bringing the press to his level, as opposed to like standing up on a podium and he's looking down on all of them, and which he does end up doing.
And it always shows like no matter what, Tony always has control.
Yeah.
Even though it's a power move, but it's a humbling power move. And this movie, most of the script was done like on the spot, and they improvised a lot of scenes. And I feel like this is one of those things where Robert Downey they either just came up with that on the spot, or that day, because it has almost an improv, like a free-flowing improvisational kind of feel to it. Something like Robert Downey Jr. himself would like. They told him to do whatever feels right, and they shot that, and they just kept it.
Yeah. Now,
There's quite a few scenes scattered through the movie where I feel like that's what they did.
That doesn't surprise me because he does seem like, I mean, so many movies nowadays you hear about, they go to production without a finished script, and they do that where they kind of write some of it on the fly.
This was famously, and they went in without a plan. They did everything on the spot, and the fact that this is what was the outcome is nothing short of a fucking miracle.
Yeah. This is also the scene where we get our first introduction to the great, and I'm only calling him great because of what he's done in this franchise, Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson. And you get Tony finally being like, oh yeah, I forget what it stands for, but the acronym for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Pepper goes, that's quite a mouthful. And he goes, we're workshopping some shorter names.
Like, you didn't have anybody make into an acronym already? Y'all been in like business for like since
World War II.
I think like the 50s. Yeah, I think if S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded, like 40s, I believe. So yeah, there was no genius that thought, hey, let's shorten this up to 2008. All right,
two of your founding members were fucking Howard Stark and Hank Pym, two of the most brilliant minds to ever set foot on the planet, and neither one of them could figure out, hey, you know those words we use? They spell out shield.
Yeah, you could tell there was no like real, thought of the future beyond. They did, but not every detail, and that's just one that slipped through the cracks there. And they kind of just used that for the ongoing joke.
I think it's because they wanted to give
logic.
I think it's because they wanted to give Sam Jackson the shield line for the post credits.
And like, if you're a comics fan, you're like, oh, I know. It's kind of a
it's the Leo
a nod to the
meme
to the fans. Yeah, it's a nod to the fans.
It's this scene that when Tony does finally get up to the podium, that he discusses what happened to him, and he says, I saw my weapons in the hands of the enemies, this and that, and he's like, and from now on, Stark Industries will no longer be producing weapons. And Jeff Bridges might as well have had a stroke. His reaction is like, get the fuck away from the microphone. You're done talking.
Oh yeah, he definitely plays a good businessman, like a CEO, whatever role that he has within the company. He plays a good executive.
I'm guessing he's like vice president.
And he's just a great actor in general.
I love Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, he's second in command. So, exactly. He's such a brilliant actor. And again, they should have, because when he is discovered to being the villain, it's not like a huge shocking moment, really.
No.
Because he kind of has that villain's vibe already. So there's no shock factor. I guess the people making the movie intended that to be a shock factor, but it didn't. It wasn't.
Now,
and you sacrifice that non-shock factor for character development. If they would have done it earlier on, there could have just been more for the character to do, and we could have gotten a little bit more into, because towards the end of the movie when he's talking to Tony, he says he helped build Stark Industries. He was the one that kept Tony Stark up. And the fact that he was close to Tony's father, they didn't show us any of that.
No.
And if it did, it was very little. And I wish we would have gotten that. That way we would have had a more emotional connection to the villain. But that is MCU's, at least early MCU's problem, which brings this movie down a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but yeah, he is a really great villain. And I gotta ask, Have there been many people other than Jeff Bridges in this movie who are able to pull off the completely bicked bald head with a full beard? Because I gotta say, every time I see him in this movie, I'm like, that should just be your look. Like that, it looks so fitting on him. I don't know
It
what
definitely
it
looked
is.
good on him. And anytime I see somebody with a bald head and a beard, I automatically go. There's two people: my father because he is bald with a beard, and Obadiah Stane because he is
And what a
his
name!
brethren, two bald ass Obadiah Stane. It right, and if that's not your first clue that he's going to be a villain, oh,
Yeah,
that's a villain ass name for your ass.
I mean, what I like is after this, we kind of go into Tony in his lab, kind of secluding himself away from everything because he's building this suit, he's testing it, he's fucking shooting himself into walls and other things. But before we do that, we get
Oh, he's slamming his whole body into walls.
Oh yeah, but he creates a new arc reactor for his chest, and he gets Pepper. If you were a personal assistant to a billionaire, and you walked into their lab and they said, "I need you to reach into this hole in my chest and pull out a wire," and the first thing you did is reached in and went, "It feels very wet and goopy," I'd be like, "I'm out. I hereby give you my resignation. I'm gone."
And I think this is why Gwyneth Paltrow was hired for Peppers because of
Because
this
she has
scene.
small hands.
I think this is probably one of the scenes. Sure, it's because I think that scene alone is simply incredible because it's not because of anything crazy happening, because of the chemistry. You see how natural the dialogue, the chemistry is, the comedy. They just the two actors, Robert Downey Jr. and Alco, they play off each other so well, both dramatically and comedically. It's awkward, it's funny, it feels personal. You can feel the relationship developing, and this scene is one of the scenes that totally buys you into Tony and Pepper as a couple.
It's this scene and the dancing leading into the discussion on the roof.
Mm-hmm. And throughout the movie, you're seeing these two people slowly fall for each other, and it's so believable. And it's because of those two actors specifically and the chemistry that they have. Because that is throughout all the Iron Man movies, all the Avengers movies, and every single scene that they're in, they just feel like a couple that truly loves each other and has known each other for years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things they could have done, which I don't know if they should have or shouldn't have, but when they do this whole him testing different things in the lab and whatnot, I feel like it does go on maybe a little bit too long, and they could have maybe cut some of it or even made it into a montage, and then you could have had more time in the movie to do some more of like the Obadiah backstory, or even earlier we were talking about Batman and his origin. We get no reference to Tony's parents and their death or anything like that in this movie. You could have used a montage here that maybe lasts a few minutes and then gone back and maybe told a little bit of those stories to kind of give a little bit more oomph behind the characters. I mean, but the fact that they didn't do it, they used Robert Downey Jr. and even the voice of Paul Bettany to kind of give some comedic sense to when he's making this suit, even to the point like just when he does the 10%, flies into the wall, and then he comes back later and he does the 1%, and his just response is just, "Yeah, I can fly." And when we finally well, I was going to say, when we finally do get him in the actual suit, it seems like I say, it seems like we could have gotten there a lot quicker, because we don't necessarily the joke with the one robot being stupid is is funny, but at the
I like
same time, I'm like,
like
I
just slightly overused. Yeah,
well,
slightly.
but
Just
also
depends on your taste of.
that robot isn't AI. That robot was programmed, most likely by Tony. So who's really the dumb
True,
one?
but it's just there's just a way to add some humor naturally, or at least just injecting some humor that's not too slapsticky. And yeah, I mean they did overuse it a little bit, but I did appreciate it. Um, and yeah, if I like those kind of scenes. I like the making of the suit, like the slowly discovering your powers, little montage there. I had no issues with it, but if we could edit some of that out to get more development on Tony's backstory and just his like yeah his family and his role within the company and that legacy, and his legacy basically being his father's legacy, and the fact that this movie in its core is about legacy. They could have solidified that a little bit more by, you know, diving a little bit deeper into his history. Um, and it would have helped with Obadiah staying too because he was involved in that and he helped raise young Tony. If we had a little bit more of that, yeah, it definitely would have added more to the characters. And yeah, that I would trade a little bit of the montage for that, but I like the fact that that they put that we got that type of montage because personally I like that, but I do see where you're coming from with it being a little bit too long.
So what? So obviously we all know the iconic Iron Man suit, the red, the yellow. I got to be honest. When he first puts on this silver chrome one, I was like, this thing kind of looks badass in silver. And we get the very first iconic inside the helmet shot, which anybody who's watching movies is so used to now.
I don't know if they created that for the Iron Man character. I remember watching Iron Man Toons, but I don't remember that POV shot specifically. And if they did or didn't, it doesn't matter because this movie popularized that POV shot. And anytime you're a robot or in a suit or anything, that is the POV shot that you use. It's some flavor of that.
Yeah, they use it later for Obadiah. They use it when Mark Ruffalo's in the Hulkbuster suit in later movies.
Now it's
works
into like Spider-Man.
Yep, and
Yeah,
it works
does.
because
It does work.
when he has the mask on, it doesn't move. It's just metal. So you could very much just be like, well, this is just all ASR, or ADR. Sorry, it doesn't add any personality. But as soon as you see his face, and even in later movies when Jarvis or whoever will tell him something, and his face kind of reacts like, oh, yeah, that could work. It gives you so much more humanity to the character and makes it more relatable in a way, as much as any of us can relate to somebody in a flying suit of armor.
It's having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people's complaints about superheroes is that the actors show their face too much. And this is a way to show the actor's face without
showing it to the world.
Disrespecting. Yeah. And having the audience always having to look at the superhero and the actor's face at the same time, which can get annoying.
So he has this line too because he wants to take this silver suit, the Mach 2, for his test flight. And Jarvis, I think he says there's a terabyte of data we have to overlook or we have to look over first. And he says, sometimes you got to run before you can walk, and just fucking takes off. And all I wrote in this scene is I was like, he's had zero flight training. He's never been a pilot that we know of, and yet he can,
That's Tony Stark.
within a matter of about 15 seconds, he can fly this suit like a champ. No issues, no problems. He knows exactly what every little movement is going to do. It's just one of those.
I mean,
really
it
have
did
to suspend
establish
the disbelief.
that he's a genius. I mean, they established that he is a genius. I mean, they could have at least had him, as he's building the suit, look at like aerodynamics, or at least how like jets fly, and learning how that works, how to operate in the sky as a pilot. So yeah, you might have to suspend your but the fact that we already know that he's a genius, you don't have to just spend it that much. Even look, yeah, because I never thought that thought didn't really pop into my mind, to be honest. Even though it is a reasonable thought to have, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fun. I mean, it's a fun scene overall. It's kind of the main reason that they do it, and again, they insert a little bit of comedy.
Yeah, and it just shows you that. Yeah, it shows you that Tony Stark is high risk, high reward, and he has the confidence and belief in himself to stand on that, no matter what the outcome is. And he's just lucky enough that the odds are typically in his favor.
Yeah, and they when he gets back from his flight, they add a little bit of the comedy where he cuts the engine and falls through 2 stories, lands on one of his cars, which one of his cars is going to become the inspiration because he decides that he's going to paint the majority of the suit hot rod red. And right away from there, he's heard about his weapons in this Middle East city, Gomera, sorry. And
It's my favorite.
next thing, pardon?
We're getting into my favorite scene.
See, and I'm gonna fight you on that a little bit. But we get to
All right, go.
yeah, I mean, right there, it shows him flying across, and we get to this scene in Gomera. Now, I'm not saying I dislike the scene, but I'm going to let you do why do you like this scene so much? Aside from the iconic walk-away explosion.
Which sold everyone into seeing the movie, because that was a scene in one of the trailers. And I think still it's one of the most badass moments of the MCU, for sure. And the CG still holds up, which is crazy.
It's that and the
I think most of
Jericho
it
missile for me.
Yeah.
With his arms outstretched.
Absolutely.
But go on.
It's an iconic image. Yeah, like, I think, a lot of it works for me. Tony seeing innocent people suffering, that whole father being separated from the kids cry, I think instantly have an emotional connection, and you hate the people, the terrorists, even more if you didn't hate them abysmally already. I think the sound design is fantastic. The CG still holds up. You're getting him testing the suit out, so he gets to do a lot of badass things that you're seeing for the first time. It's just a whole lot of heroics mixed with just confidence, and backed by just incredible action and great CGI.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to argue that it's a bad scene. I do enjoy this one. My only issue with this scene, and I know that these aren't the big bad villains of the movie and whatnot, and I get that these are the people who had originally kidnapped Tony. My only issue with this scene is there's no real tension. Like, Tony basically shows up and just dominates these people, and it's all over almost too quickly. And I get that the suit is like it's bulletproof. It's literally armor.
Yeah, I think that was the point. I think that was the point of the scene. It's just
to make him look like he just dominates.
Well, just the hierarchy and his weapons now, and while also showing off, you know, his heroic. We don't get much of him actually doing that in this movie, and this is one of those that shows him being a hero. And yeah, he was definitely dominant, but I don't think it was meant to. That just wasn't the angle they were going with.
Because I do love the scene that follows this when he's trying to fly home, and you've got the F-22 Raptors kind of like chasing him, like he's
the tension's there.
That I think is a great scene,
because there is tension there.
Well, no, there's tension, but there's also that little bit of comedy when Rhodey calls him and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just driving with the top down." What the hell is that noise? Oh, I told you the top's down. Like I'm driving. What? And it's very clear. Like Tony doesn't want to. He wants to tell him, but he doesn't. And then he even says, like, "Why are you out of breath?" He goes, "Oh, I was just jogging. I thought you said you were driving." Well, no, I was driving to jog, and then
yeah, and I don't know if this is a controversial take or anything, but
is this the Terrence Howard argument?
Yeah, I just think he is such a better Rhodey than who he was replaced with.
Couldn't agree more.
Because I prefer the chemistry between this Tony and Rhodey. It felt more natural, and I just believe that they had a friendship that lasted 3 years. Don Cheadle and Robert Downey Jr., they have chemistry, but you don't believe that they've known each other for that long. You can't get into their relationship as much personally as him and Terrence Howard.
I feel like Don Cheadle has more chemistry when they have the big group scenes. Like when we get to the later movies like Civil War or Infinity War Endgame, I think Don Cheadle works better for those. I think as Rhodey in general in the Iron Man universe, Terrence Howard is a better Rhodes. Unfortunately, the reason he didn't come back is, and I don't blame the studio because he wanted to be paid the same as RDJ, which, let's face it, you're a good actor. You're not getting paid what the star. Like, you're not making the same amount as Robert Downey Jr.
He did get paid. He did get paid more of the first movie. It was just
that's because they didn't know what was gonna. That's because they didn't know if they could trust Robert Downey Jr. That was the biggest question mark going into this whole production.
Yeah, without a doubt, sure. But and it was there's a couple reasons why Terrence Howard didn't get that role. That's one of them. He's shed more light on it recently. He kind of slapped around one of the producers as well. So that also had a big impact on him not returning.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah, that doesn't.
But I don't know. I don't know because, like you said, I don't know how Terrence would have worked in Endgame.
I mean, the whole thing is I keep
just with an ensemble.
I keep thinking of the big, and they're usually because Don Cheadle usually doesn't talk a whole lot in the movies, and when he does, it's almost like sometimes he just injects little comedic lines, like for example, the ones
like token black guy kind of lines, almost.
Well, the ones that come to me off the bat are
not really
game but when
kinda.
They're talking about the time heist, and he's like, well, we go back when Thanos, and he does like the mimicking of wrapping the cord around Thanos as a baby, and then they start doing like listing off the time travel movies, and the other one is when Fat Thor, he says, "Do you know what's coursing through my veins?" And Don Cheadle just goes, "Cheese whiz." I can't see Terrence Howard delivering those lines because Terrence Howard is a much more serious. I feel that Terrence Howard is a much more serious actor and doesn't delve into the comedy as much as Don Cheadle does. So if they were planning on making the character,
you believe him? He definitely has more of a military man
very much
vibe
so.
Than Don Cheadle. So
Yeah, it's almost weird when
Yeah.
you see Don Cheadle in his military uniform in the rest of the movies.
a little. It definitely doesn't even. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just his acting or just the fact that I've known him in other movies that I just can't get into him as the role of Rhodey more so than Terrence
No,
Howard did.
I think Terrence Howard would have been better
plus I
overall
know
as well.
hmm But it is what it is. Maybe we'll get him in Endgame. Who knows?
You mean,
We'll get
you mean Doomsday?
all bets are off when that movie.
So
I mean,
after...
Let's say Endgame.
Yeah.
I meant Secret Wars. That's if you're gonna get anything like that, it'll probably be that movie.
That would be quite interesting. But when Tony gets back from this mission, is what I wrote down as I think is the funniest line of the movie is when Pepper comes down and Jarvis and the robots are trying to take the suit off of Tony. And this is the first time she really sees what he's really been working on. And he turns and looks at her and he goes, let's face it, this isn't the worst thing you've ever caught me doing. And we're so far into this movie, this is when we find out. Now, again, we said this should have been revealed earlier. This is when we find out that Obadiah was the one who orchestrated Tony's kidnapping.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole scene when he has...
It was a kidnapping, but it was a hit. Like, he said hit
they were supposed to kill him.
He wasn't supposed to... He was
But the tension of this scene with Pepper going to Tony's computer at Stark Industries to call... The tension on this scene is off the charts, in my opinion. The way that Gwyneth Paltrow and Jeff Bridges play off of one another in this scene is fantastic.
Oh, I feel like Gwyneth, I mean, I guess she should have played it a little bit more cool. It was obvious she was up to no good, and I get it, but it's not like, I mean, you're just discovering that your coworker is this evil piece of shit. I just don't think you would have had such a strong, untrustworthy reaction right away, or at least it would have been written all over your face. She just should have had a better poker face in that scene. But I understand why.
It's just because she's terrified.
She's just not that kind of a person. Yeah. And Jeff Bridges finds out she was up to no good anyways towards the end of the scene. So it's not like it's a complaint or anything. It's just throughout that entire scene, you could tell she was nervous as fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely understand. Yeah, you feel the tension almost immediately once she discovers what's going on and she sees Obadiah.
Well, you mentioned them earlier. This is where we get introduced to Ralphie, Peter Billingsley as Jeff Bridges' head scientist trying to replicate Tony's arc reactor so that he can power what's going to be his iron suit as Ironmonger, which I don't think they ever actually refer to him in the movie, but that is his character's name in the comics.
He technically calls himself an Ironmonger when he's talking to
Tony Stark. I did catch that.
We're Ironmongers.
I did catch
just
that.
Technicality, but he was referring as a collective, not individual.
And I also wrote we get Peter Billingsley, who will make another appearance 11 years later in Far From Home.
Was he in Homecoming? No.
Far From Home, along with
because he's a producer. He's a producer of these MCU movies.
Well, because him.
So I'm glad that he got. I'm sure he got a lot of success by being a producer.
So I learned this from back when I used to have the movie networks. I watched something called Vince Vaughn's Wild West Comedy Show, and it was like 4 stand-up comedians who would tour around the country, but there was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. And in watching that, I learned that Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau, and Peter Billingsley are like best friends. So if you look at it like the movie The Breakup with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, Peter Billingsley directed that. He's also in it. Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn famously made Swingers. Like, they're all intermingled together somehow. They're all really good friends.
Mhm.
So it doesn't surprise me that Jon Favreau cast him. It's not a big role. He's only in it for a couple of minutes, and he has maybe a couple lines. But this is when
I
we
think he's
get
a producer too.
I
of the
believe so,
movie,
yeah.
too. I think he's one of the producers. So
But this is where we get that Tony
glad
was
that
able to build this in a
he was
cave.
convinced to.
Yeah, it just from this point,
Yeah.
the movie kind of it's already been going decently fast pace.
It
From here, the movie is launched out of a can.
I mean, yeah, it sprints to the finish line as we enter the third act. That whole third act is definitely rushed. Everything about it and it feels rushed.
And they barely talk about one of the coolest gadgets in this movie. Is this fucking sound device that Obadiah
That was the
has.
coolest.
I
That
said
was
one
fucking
of. I
terrifying.
said one of that never gets
Like
brought
turn-
up again
turns you gray and
across
shit. That's just crazy.
across 18 years of movies.
I
It's never come up again.
think it might have. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of another thing. But no, as far as I know, it doesn't. But it might have in one of the TV shows.
Oh, I'm not counting
I
those.
can't confirm it. But yeah, they do count as the total MCU. So I can't say that it hasn't been
Well,
talked
he-
about, or at least mentioned or used again in the MCU.
And
At least the
Obadiah,
movies did it. I don't think.
Obadiah used it to steal Tony's arc reactor to power his suit, and it's a damn good thing that Pepper kept that original, because otherwise Tony would be dead. And of course, you get he has to call Rhodey, and Rhodey comes, and he gets to watch him suit up as Iron Man. He's like, "This is," he goes, I think he says like that is the coolest thing that I have ever seen. And then we get
Because it is. That's a cool thing.
the
Every time you see him go into the suit before the
unfortunately this.
nanotech, it goes.
I was going to say, this suiting up scene feels so old and clunky compared to in Endgame. He like
'Cause
double
these-
taps his chest and it's all nano.
If you pay attention to Tony Stark and the evolution of the suits, it tells quite there's a lot of growth and character development just in that evolution there. Because, okay, so just for example, in Iron Man 2, when Whiplash uses his whiplash and he's electrified, Whiplash is on Tony Stark, it fucks the suit up, right? So Tony Stark, like, he learns from every mistake, and he learned from that mistake by adding I don't know, some type of absorption tech that helped him in Avengers. That's how we got the scene of
You are now charged to
Thor
400%.
throwing the lightning at him. There's a reason why that is in there, is because of the previous movies.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, Tony Stark's mistakes, he learns that from every movie, and he implements that to future suits,
Yeah, it is something that his character...
which is cool.
And
It's a nice
it also
movie,
seems like his character's never satisfied. Like, he always wants to continue to improve, which is it's an admirable trait. But
Oh
unfortunately,
yeah, I
now,
think that's just a trait of a gearhead, because the
Yeah.
movie establishes that through and through, this man's a gearhead. He likes tinkering with things, and with that, you're always trying to come up with ways to make it better.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this next line might be the most well-known Terrence Howard line of his career. Unfortunately, go for it.
One of, for sure. Oh yeah, he looks at one of the the extra suits Tony has, looks at it longingly, and says, "Next time, baby."
Nope, not for you.
And I love the meme that's attached to it. I love the meme that is attached to it because it's like he says that, and it's like underneath it's like last online 10 years later or something like that. And it's just, I always get a chuckle at that.
And we finally
And,
get to see Obadiah. He wanted to call him Jebediah, but this is not The Simpsons. Obadiah
because
staying
we're
as the
so used to Obadiah being Jeb, not Oba.
Jeb or
Like,
Jed.
as opposed to
Yeah.
Obadiah.
Yeah, we get
that's
to
the
see
Obadiahs that we're used to, not Oba.
we get Obadiah as the Ironmonger, and I find it so funny that he's this like 15-foot Iron Man basically, and he's hiding in the dark like he's in stealth mode. It's like when Godzilla in
I-
it's like when in the '98 Godzilla, we can't find him, sir. He must be hiding. He's the size of a building.
But I think it's a dark mirror to the first scene we see with Iron Man, where he's kind of in the shadows. You don't really get a good look of him until he decides to show himself. And yeah, I think they're kind of just showing you that other side of the coin there. But yeah, his big ass shouldn't. How are you hiding? How are you hiding, man? You're a big clunky piece of fucking metal. There's no way you sneaking up on anybody.
This, and I gotta say, I know that they don't really focus too much on the villains. To me, this fight is not that good. It for parts.
No,
of it,
I mean,
think
okay, it's inner. But
I was gonna say, I think a lot of it is because it's done at night too, but there are parts of it that it just looks like two
Yeah.
miniature Transformers fighting.
I mean, it does that. It's entertaining enough while you're watching the movie, but other than that, it's kind of forgettable and lackluster
Yeah,
and rushed.
it is very rushed, and the way he thinks he's gonna beat him is he flies upwards so that he can ice up like he did earlier. And he says to him, "Oh, I guess you didn't figure out the icing problem." And right then, Obadiah's suit shuts down and he falls. And we never see we never see him fix it or like anything that happens on the way down. But all of a sudden, Tony gets back on the ground and Ironmonger swoops back in, suit fully powered again, still able to fly, and the fight just keeps going. And it's like, well, how did you get your suit to turn back on? How did you... Because when Tony does it the first time, he has to manually open his, what he calls his flaps, to slow him down to allow him to defrost the suit. It shows none of that for Obadiah. It's just like, oh, surprise, he's still alive,
No,
and you got to finish him off.
I mean, yeah, but they
It's
still
just-
had to make the villain threatening, without just having the ice problem be the resolution. They still needed some moments there, and they decided to do it that way. Sacrificing the logic of, him actually physically taking the ice out of the things that would have made the suit not work.
Yeah. And again, like I said, the whole fight is just kind of lackluster. The fact that Pepper not overrides, but more or less like overheats
Like overloads it or something.
the reactor, and that's what kills him and the whole thing. Also, at the end of this movie, I never realized this before, Tony shouldn't survive because the arc reactor that's in his chest is the original one that he made, and it's out of power. The only other one that exists was what was powering Obadiah's suit, and it's disintegrated when he falls into the arc reactor and it explodes. So theoretically, we don't know of a third miniature reactor for Tony, so he should be dead at the end of this movie. And I've never noticed that until this watch.
Yeah, I think it's a plot hole I heard by another, because when you just mentioned it now, I feel like I've heard that before,
Mhm.
but I could be wrong. I mean, yeah. I mean, technically, yes. So they might have made a plot hole for themselves there. But yeah, it's
But
Tony Stark. You don't care, man. You forgive it. You forgive it for that.
well, I mean, you
But yeah,
have
that
to.
just adds to the disappointment of the scene in general. If you add that to it, that just makes that scene a little bit less enjoyable.
And that's how the movie
But
ends.
again, that's I
And
think that's the biggest problem.
well, that's not quite how the movie ends. We get the press conference the next day, which I, I can't I can't think of a better way for this movie to end because they do the whole thing like, oh, here are your cue cards. We've arranged it so that you're going to tell everybody you were on your yacht in wherever the hell he
They should have
says.
they should have just went with the comic. I wish they would have, because in the comics, how it's explained is that Iron Man is Tony Stark's bodyguard.
Which is funny
It's
because
his
that's
tech,
what the
but
reporter.
it's his bodyguard.
It's funny because that's what Leslie Bibb, the reporter, because they even say no questions, and immediately she goes, "Are we supposed to believe that the person flying around in that suit was your bodyguard? I don't buy it." Like completely out of the blue, like there must have been a deleted scene or it was like a headline in a paper that we just didn't see because that's exactly what she says to him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they had seen, like, that was the angle they were probably dead set on going with until something changed. I don't know what he did exactly, but yeah, no, that's how they did it in the comic books, and I wish they would have kept with that because I'm not a very big fan of not having a secret identity. I think that's just part of being a
I
superhero.
I think
And
it works.
Tony Stark has always had, he's always had a secret identity. And him claiming or, declaring that he's Iron Man kind of sets up the whole MCU as not really caring too much about the secret identity aspect until Spider-Man, of course. Um, and that's just an aspect of superhero, just storytelling that I like,
Mhm.
and they didn't do it here. It's different, but it doesn't bother me in any way that much, and it's a different approach.
I mean, I like how they do it because the character of Tony Stark with the ego that he has, I feel like it would be hard for him to let anybody else take the credit. Which is why I love that when she's like, "Oh, you can't let us believe it's a bodyguard, this and that," and
True.
he just drops the cards and he
This
goes, "The
kind, this
truth,
Tony Stark.
yeah, the truth is, I am Iron Man." Kick in the Black Sabbath and roll credits,
Yeah.
and we get our very first MCU post-credit scene. Mr. Sam Jackson as Nick Fury just walks out of the shadows and he simply says, "I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative." Cut to black, movie's over. I I love this post credit scene because it's short, it's simple, and it gives you exactly what you need. It's not a 2-3 minute scene that has jokes or anything like that. It's just get in, get out. Here's where we're aiming to bring this story, and now go discuss it with your friends and on your internet message boards, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very ambitious. Um, because before that, there wasn't a whole lot of superhero movies that referenced, like, the
The big
overall
teams.
superhero world. You may have gotten a mention of a certain character in other movies, rarely. Maybe one or two moments where I can really do an example. Like when Batman mentions Superman, and I think it's like Batman and Robin or something. But
This is why
this
Superman
was the
works
first movie to
alone.
acknowledge that yeah, this movie established that there's a bigger world out there full of other heroes,
Yep.
heroes that are, we all know if familiar with Marvel, and yeah, nothing like that has ever been done, even in the small amount that we got in the post credit scene.
So that's going to bring us to the end of Iron Man. We'll move into our categories now. Trading Faces, our recasting category. As a joke, I wrote I recast Don Cheadle as Rhodey.
Yeah.
I just put one.
Wait.
I can only come up with one for Tony. You?
Okay. Ooh. I got one.
I have Jake Gyllenhaal.
Really?
I like
I mean,
Jake
you
Gyllenhaal.
can do no wrong in my book.
I think the difference is RDJ's is so much more flamboyant and flashy, whereas I think Jake Gyllenhaal's would have been more like you said he was described as in the comic. Not that Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't have charm or charisma, but just that he would be so much more of like a deep thinker and analytical about every little detail that I think it almost would have gotten irritating. But I think he could have done a pretty decent job at it. And other than him, I had no idea.
I don't know his first name, but he's a Culkin.
Kieran?
Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Kieran Culkin from Succession?
Is that his name?
Yeah. He just won an Academy Award a couple years ago.
I think he would have been, he could play a decent Tony Stark in the same vein as Robert Downey Jr. I think he kind of gives me that same quick wit, very fast talking, charming type of personality that Robert Downey Jr. has.
Just for context, just to make sure I have the right one, Kieran Culkin is the one who played Fuller in Home Alone.
Succession.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. The one that feed the bed?
Yes.
Yeah, from Succession. Yeah,
okay.
Him. I think he would have done he could do it. I mean, he could still play the role. If I were to recast Tony Stark, I think I would put him in the seat.
Yeah, I think that would work. So next we have our scene obsession, our favorite moment or scene from the movie. For me, it's Pepper with the Files. Mine is Pepper with the Files with her and Jeff Bridges.
That's your favorite scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everything else is like it's just another action scene. Whereas this one, like I said when we talked about it, it really builds tension and especially without Tony on screen, because he can't go and do this, so he sends her as his proxy, I guess. And it also leads into when she's kind of rushing out of the building. It's like she grabs Coulson and she's like, "Okay, you're gonna come with me now, and I'm really gonna explain to you what's going on too."
Mm-hmm. I think if I were to have a second favorite, I think it would be any scene involving Tony and Pepper. I think just because.
Yeah, that would work.
Every time they're on screen, it's like a mix. It's a mix of dramatic and comedic, and there's so much chemistry with them that you just kind of want the scene to last a little bit longer, so you can get a little bit more acting out of those two, and that tells you a lot about how good those actors are together. When you want more of that.
All right. How about for scene regression, your worst or most cringy moment or scene of the movie?
I was trying to come up with something. I couldn't, man. I'd say maybe the cringiest is probably towards the beginning when he brings the chick home.
I was say I have any scene with Leslie Bibb.
Yeah, I'd say if there were going to be, it would have to be the scene with her. Just
the only scene I like with her in it is when she wakes up in the morning and she comes out and she, you must be the famous Pepper Potts. Is it really you do everything for him? And she's like, yep. And I even occasionally take out the trash.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming you have the same for quotable moment that I do, but I want to know what yours is.
I don't know. I think Next Time Baby, I think for sure, or Tony Stark fell down the cave. There's also one moment where he I guess he's testing out his stabilizers with Pepper, and he says it's not dangerous, but he shoots, blows something up and blows himself, and he's like, I didn't expect that, or something along those lines. and I think that was delivered pretty funny.
I mean, mine is
Good
the
quote. Good line.
mine's the last line of the movie. I am Iron Man.
Mm,
Who is
which
your?
is it makes a huge payoff in Endgame. That
Oh,
line there.
chills. Who is your standout performance in this movie?
I mean, honestly, the easy choice is Tony Stark, obviously, but I think it's Jensen, man, for sure. I didn't
Okay.
realize how much of an impact he really had. I think he was just as much impact, and it mirrors a lot of Steve Rogers and the Scientist.
Yep.
I think it mirrors a lot of the connection that Tony has with Jensen,
So
and
Jensen was played
just
by
as impactful, very important.
Jensen
Good.
was played by actor Sean Tube. But yeah, I think he was fantastic. I have Jeff Bridges. I thought
I
him as
mean, yeah, but we
I
just
thought
didn't
he
get
was
enough.
fantastic as Obadiah. I mean, I've always been a huge Jeff Bridges fan, and to see him in this role where he went from the beginning where he's, oh, Tony, I'm so happy to see you back, and to then you get to the screaming Tony Stark built us in a cave, to the very end when he is in the Ironmonger suit and he has such menacing and evil lines. Like, I think he did a fantastic job in my opinion. And for chemistry check, I'm assuming both of us are probably going to have Tony and Pepper.
Yeah,
I mean, Tony and Rhodey have chemistry, but it's nothing compared to what him and Pepper have in this movie and throughout the whole series. But that is going to
Yes,
bring us to an
because,
end on Iron Man, and we can move forward to our final thoughts and ratings and reviews. This was my choice for the movie, so I'll lead us off.
last.
I think this is a great movie. I think it's held up quite well. The performances, the CGI, the storylines in itself have held up. As we've said, the performances across the board are pretty much, I don't want to use the word perfect, but damn close. It always amazes me how well Marvel and the studios do in casting these movies, because, like I say, I was trying to think of a recasting option for just one character, and I was having a really hard time doing it. And I think that's because if you've seen these movies, if you ask anybody, there's nobody who can play Tony Stark like Robert Downey Jr. can. That being said, there were some negative things I found. Like I say, certain things kind of ran a little long. We could have turned those into montages and gotten either a bit of a shorter runtime or kind of delved into the depth of some other different characters. Overall, it's a very fun movie to watch. It's great to look at. The cinematography is fantastic. The soundtrack is great. Even the needle drops of like the classic rock songs, and it just, especially leading into Black Sabbath's Iron Man through the credits, it all flows together so well. That being said, being where we are now, as much as the movie holds up, I don't think it matches the team up movies of the future. But as an individual origin story for the MCU, I think it's a great movie, and I would recommend it across the board, especially if you're a fan of the comics, the MCU, the whole nerd movement that film is going through. And I'm going to give this movie a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, no. I think Iron Man remains one of the strongest superhero origin stories. But mostly because it definitely understands the character, and it understands that the suit isn't the hero; it's the man inside, and that this man that is now aware of his legacy and his impact on the world, his lifelong mission that he accepted at the end of the movie to change it for the better. I really like that. All in it, an origin story. I think was just phenomenal. Robert Downey Jr. delivers a career-defining performance, and he's basically just being himself, which is funny. Uh, Jensen provides some of the the emotional heart. I think I'll just repeat this. Robert Downey Jr. delivers a career-defining performance. I like basically the chemistry of all of Tony's personal relationships. Pepper, Rhodey, even the chemistry with him and Jeff Bridges was great. Fuck him with his AI robots, him and Jarvis had good chemistry, and yeah, it all worked for me. Some of my weaknesses that brings the movie down for me is just an underdeveloped Obadiah Stane. It sucks that you get the caliber of actor as Jeff Bridges and you don't fully utilize his range of acting, and you don't give him enough time to really sink his teeth into the character. I think if you'd done that, you would have gotten a more iconic role and a more lasting legacy throughout the MCU. I think the final battle was rushed, and that's pretty much most of my flaws. Was those two specifically? Yeah, I think it remains one of the best origin movies and one of the best MCU films personally. I recommend this if you haven't seen this. Definitely watch it if you're into action movies and superhero movies. And if you have seen it, I'd say rewatch it. I think this is a very rewatchable movie. And I tend to revisit it every couple of years. Still holds up. CGI is, which is crazy to say for an 18-year-old movie, that CGI still looks good to this day. And yeah, I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, well, that's going to bring us to an end on this movie. After our reviews, I gave it an 8, Juan gave it an 8.5, and next week we'll be going into our third MCU origin movie. Juan, why don't you tell us what we're going to be watching?
Now, I was going to go a certain character, but I realized, that's a big spoiler for a movie. I don't want to spoil our audience, especially the ones that want to be kept in the dark of everything that happens in Doomsday. So I'm going to go with the safe bet. And my Origins movie isn't an individual origin. This is an origin of a team.
I know right where you're going. I love it.
Not just any team. Nah, maybe not. Because we're not going into space. That's what I'll say. This is the origin of the team. Earth's mightiest heroes. And arguably, I think my top 2, maybe top 3 MCU movie of all time.
That is not where I thought you were going.
No, I had a feeling that's where you're going to go with it. And it was close. It was close. But I feel like this one deserves to be highlighted. Our next movie is going to be the origin of the Avengers.
Dude, we're going to New York City to fight some fucking aliens?
The Chitauri, neither. And a frost giant bastard son.
Oh, Loki.
Who became an Asgardian. Oh, sorry, he's adopted.
Hey, he's still... Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm fucking pumped. I love that movie. It's been a little while since I've rewatched The Avengers. So I am definitely pumped and looking forward to next week to watch that movie again. So you heard it here first, folks. Join us next week where we will be rewatching and discussing, I believe it's 2012's The Avengers. And that's going to wrap it up here for us for this episode. And as always, we want to thank all of our listeners and our subscribers, and we would love to ask for you guys to rate and review the pod. Also, tell your family and friends about us and help us grow our audience. As always, give us a follow on our socials, which will be posted in the show notes. And until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.
Peace out.
Lights down, screen up, here we go. Talking movies, everybody knows the good, the bad.